Hi guys, I'm Shmee, and today I'm going to do a bit of a Q&A, some questions and answers. Of course, there's been a lot flying in since I took delivery of the FF a week or two ago now, and of course timed that almost precisely with the arrival of the 675 LT. So I'm going to run through all of your questions here about the FF, about how all of this came about what I do to make this possible, all sorts of things like that, and hopefully get you some answers. But of course, we're off on this road trip with the two cars arriving together. I'm here with all of my team. We're driving around, having a lot of fun, and enjoying the cars how they're supposed to. But that unfortunately means time is pretty scarce for getting back to you all. So we've sort of congregated all of the most frequent questions, and I'll run through those now. But for this moment, I'm actually inside the garage because it's pouring down with rain outside, unfortunately. But I'm going to sit inside the FF, pretty comfortable place to be, and get running through. Let's get this started then with one of the most frequent questions, which is how did the FF come about? Well, as you know, I've also currently got the BMW X6 M50D that I've been using a bit like a support car. I took it on the X6 tour recently, did lots and lots of miles in that car and loved it. But that is soon going to return back to BMW. So I was starting to think about what's going to come next. What would I like as my sort of support car, drive it when I need a practical car, if I'm going out of London to do some mileage, not crazy journeys, but you know, what could I use to transport 4 people, maybe some luggage, but enjoy driving. And I wouldn't say I started looking for the FF, I more sort of just stumbled into this specific car, and I'll get onto that more a little bit later. I wasn't necessarily intending a new car to come already, but maybe slightly further towards the end of the year. This all sort of just happened, and I'm going to run through that in a moment, because it sort of moves on to some of the other questions. In particular, next, did you consider any other cars? Well, after the X6, big fan of BMW, so I was sort of thinking about the M6 Gran Coupe. I've been a big fan of those since I went in one in summer last year in California. Was driven down from Pebble Beach Car Week down towards LA in a friend's car. And that thing is so baller and so awesome. I love it. So I was looking a bit at the M6 GC, a bit at an Audi RS6, probably the coolest estate car out there in the world. 5-door, lots of comfort, luxury, speed, and those sort of more typical, I suppose, German alternatives. But then the FF came up, you know, and I think the FF is a bit of a Marmite car. A lot of people love it, a lot of people hate it. But it's a Ferrari. It's the opportunities that come with that. It's the excitement, the noise this thing makes, the V12, the extra stories I can share with you, of course. So there's a lot more to it. So I wouldn't say I went out looking for this car for an FF, but when I found the advert for this car, it was pretty much game, set, match. I was sold to bits on it. The spec is absolutely beautiful, so all of that was involved. We've had a couple of questions asking if I've sorted out my differences with Ferrari now that I own one. I wouldn't say I ever had any differences as such with Ferrari, but to get on Ferrari's sort of invitational events list, press list, all of that kind of thing, takes a lot of work. They tend to only invite, you know, the mainstream magazines, newspapers, TV shows, so I've never been able to access, I suppose, Ferrari content in the same way I have other manufacturers. I talked to Ferrari, of course, before buying this car because, let's say you want to film in a showroom, you always have to get permission from the PR team, so I had to make content about picking it up, so I had to talk to them. And they've been really, really invitational. So we've got a lot of cool things actually in the works, which I'm very excited about, especially with this car, being able to show the four-wheel drive system, using it. So Ferrari are being very supportive, which is absolutely lovely, in terms of the content I should be able to make. And hopefully that relationship will grow and grow, and you never know, there might be another Ferrari at some point in the future. No plans at this stage, but you never know. So another question, how does it feel to be the owner of 2 pretty special cars, especially a daily driver with a V12? Well, I'm not going to lie, it's absolutely amazing right now. The last couple of days since I've had both cars, the FF and the 675 sat next to me, have been some pretty special days. I've never had as much fun as this, being able to move between the 2 cars. It's literally like a surreal dream that I feel I'm just literally going to get pinched and I'm going to wake up from, and it's not going to be real. But I think it is. I think this is happening, and I think I'm uploading these videos so you guys know about it. But the 675 LT is the most amazing, exciting car I've ever owned, and it's such a special experience. And then even the FF, like, this car is a wonderful car to drive. It feels so small and exciting when you're pushing on, and the sound it makes is truly breathtaking. It's just an absolute pinch moment. You know, McLaren, Ferrari, I couldn't really imagine anything better, and I just love sharing this stuff, and I think most of you guys enjoy watching it, so I'm gonna long continue doing that. But it's a pretty special experience. The daily driver question, a lot of people, I think, I perhaps explained it badly when I picked up the car. How does this fit? Well, I don't have a daily driver as such, because I don't commute to an office. I don't have a journey I do every day. So for me, this car is the more practical kind of, I can take it for stuff, I can take it for doing some mileage, but it's not like it's going to do crazy distances. You know, most of my journeys start and end in London, where I live, unless I'm off on a road trip. So if I'm doing a short distance, I can take the McLaren, I can take whatever car I want to take. And just use the Ferrari. You know, if I'm going 50 miles out of town and back for something specific, I'll take the Ferrari, which is an absolutely ridiculous thing to say. I appreciate that. Oh, the lights have gone off on me. You'll have to excuse me for a second. I will go and switch those back on. And I'm back. Right, where were we? So, yeah, the daily driver stuff. So, it's not a daily driver as such. It's just the car I'll use for practical purposes when I need that. Next up, why did I go for an FF, not any other Ferrari or maybe another car? So the reason I didn't really go for any other Ferrari was because of the back seats back there, the all-wheel drive, being able to use this car, the hatchback, the luggage space. I wouldn't say I was specifically out to buy a Ferrari. You know, I wasn't going to replace the LT with a 488, for example, because I wanted that experience from that car. And equally the F12, fantastic machine. Well, I say that, I've never driven an F12. But it's very similar, I suppose, to this car, but without that sort of practicality. And I wanted this to be my smart, you know, second car. I'm not looking for the car to replace the LT. I'm looking for the car that I can use for these sort of driving four people around, practical-ish purposes. And this car is actually pretty good. The amount of luggage, even in the back right now, might actually surprise you if you've watched any of the vlogs of the road trip. So are you going to modify the FF? I have no fixed plans. I don't know. I get a lot of questions about the exhaust, which sounds loud enough as it is to me. When you rev this car, it's pretty insane. The naturally aspirated 6.3 litre V12 is huge and revs up sort of straight around and done. I might do something. I might, ideally, I suppose, find a valve switch. I think there are a couple of companies that make them so that I don't get the valves sort of shutting up. Although depending which Manatino position you have on the steering wheel changes where they do. But it would be nice to have the ability to have the valve on the exhaust open all the time. I think perhaps one of the FF's semi-flaws with itself is that it has some windows that are a little bit thick. So that when you are trying to make noise, you do need to put the window down to actually hear it, although the people behind you and all around you are getting deafened. You could say that's their problem. But there we go. So why do I never buy classic or older cars? I would say never to this point, because I quite like my cars to just take them out and drive them, use them, live with them, not have to worry so much about the maintenance and looking after them. I'm away all the time, obviously, filming content, doing other business, so I want to come home and not have to worry about having to start up a car that might not run. So I tend to buy cars that are a bit newer, or like this car, like the FF, even though it's a couple of years old, come with a service and warranty pack, so it's going to be looked after for me. Down the line, I would love to grow into a collection of cars, maybe have some classic cars. There are some absolute stunning machines out there, and the experience is pretty special when you get to drive them. I suppose I'm lucky enough that through doing these videos I do get to drive some older cars. You've probably seen the videos, things like XJ220, Ferrari Daytona, all sorts of pretty cool stuff. So maybe down the line I'll buy something, but up to this point, quite happy just buying these kind of modern cars. Be a new, I guess, category of content when the time comes around for that. So a few people have asked things like, is there anything else coming along? Because recently you've been on a roll with the car revealing. I suppose the point to make with that is, remember, I've been telling you that I actually ordered the 675 LT in November last year, so it was about 11 months ago. A lot of these cars, the rarer, newer stuff, take a long time to come through. And during that time, you might change your mind, you might cancel the deposit, and of course you might firm up the order, and eventually it will become something that comes through. So who knows what's coming? I've obviously got some pretty good ideas about what's on the horizon for the future, what's in the near future, what's in the far future. But I don't necessarily think it would be right to say at this stage, because I like to go out and enjoy what I've got at the moment. You know, I want to drive the LT. That could be the first sort of collector car that I just want to keep for a very long time, because after about 500 miles so far, it is such a fantastic machine. The FF, I can see owning this for a year or two at least as well. There'll be a new model maybe, facelift update. But so far, very, very, very happy with it. So you never know. There might be something right around the corner, something spontaneous, sporadic. But at this stage, just keep your eyes peeled, and I'll let you know when I'm ready to let you know what's coming. I do find it funny though when everybody says, like, what's the next car going to be? Come on guys, I just got 2 in the last 2 weeks. Let me like get stuff out with these first and enjoy this trip. How am I finding the button crazy steering wheel in the FF? I actually really like it now. When I was driving the McLaren, I keep almost going for the indicators with my thumbs, which is not what you're supposed to do. But you get used to it, you know, you've got the indicators, the lights, the wipers. It all sort of works quite nicely, and it's a beautiful place in here because you've got the carbon fibre around the steering wheel, carbon paddles on the back, the carbon surround on the rev counter. Yeah, so I like the steering wheel. I love the McLaren steering wheel, which is a little bit smaller, Formula 1 style, very basic, nothing on it, weighs nothing, no buttons on the McLaren steering wheel in the LT, and the steering feel is ludicrously fun. But the question about the Ferrari one, I like it. I like all the buttons on here. I love seeing the engine start button right there in front of you. So that actually works quite well. How does Ferrari treat you as a customer? I think that when you're on the outside and you're not a Ferrari customer, it's very hard to get inside. You know, there's sort of a thing that it's almost a privilege to be allowed to buy your first Ferrari. Oh dear, lights have gone on me again. I'll be right back. So I was saying that it's almost a thing that it's like a privilege to be allowed to buy your first Ferrari, is what sort of people talk about. And I think from one point of view, you know, when you first walk into the Ferrari showroom, these cars are dreamed about by many, many people. And the salesmen in Ferrari dealerships must have to deal with so many, I guess, dreamers, people just coming in to look and waste their time, you know, knowingly, just looking at a Ferrari model, knowing they're not going to buy it. So I think initially it's very hard to get into the family. When I paid the deposit for this car though, things changed completely. You know, you're immediately directly talking to everyone. Everybody wants to look after you, treat you very nicely, just like you'd expect. So I think when you're in, and when you're connected, you get looked after very well, but there's perhaps less of a sales from the outside, like you'd get with McLaren or Aston Martin, or another sort of brand that's, I guess, working harder for the sales. So yeah, I mean, obviously I've only been a Ferrari owner for a very short period of time, so I couldn't talk about the long term, but initially I have no complaints. I've been looked after very nicely. The car was prepped brilliantly, prepared for me, and buying it from the dealer I did, Meridian Modena, all was absolutely lovely. So I'm very happy so far. What else do we have in the questions? Okay, I think it's probably time to embrace the big one. The thing that every single person in the world wants to know, or wants more clarification about, which is, what do I do for a living? And there's no simple answer to this. I tried to explain a couple of months back, when I did the 650S video, and talk a bit about this, because obviously from one point of view, I'm driving around in 2 ludicrously expensive cars. So how is that possible? When all it looks like I do is make videos and upload them on the internet. Well, the short story is, when you're sort of looking at a car, and what it's going to cost, one way of looking at it is the outright cost. You know, McLaren, about 300 grand. This car, about 150, 160, in pounds, of course. But the realistic side of it is, what a car costs is what it's going to actually depreciate, servicing and running it. So for example, my McLaren 12C and then my McLaren 650S, the total money I spent running those cars over 2 years was less money than I spent when I ran my BMW 1 Series and my Audi S5. So think about that. I ran 2 McLarens for less money than running 2 German fairly ordinary cars. And the way that works basically is just being clever with when you buy and sell these cars. You know, looking around for a good deal, finding the right car, and then equally, if you find the right car, selling it. It's basically business. It's buying and selling. Like anybody who does anything in the trading industry knows, that's kind of how it works. And then you get onto this world now, and you look at a car like the McLaren. Fingers crossed, obviously, it might go the other way. But a car like that is a special, limited edition, sold out car. Perhaps it will even appreciate. You know, there are plenty of other cars out there going up in value. So not only do I get to perhaps buy the car, enjoy it, drive it, run it hard, and enjoy it a lot, but maybe at the end of the day it might even make some money rather than lose it. So I try and look at cars based on their ownership cost. And you know, you take the FF, I know the FF is going to lose me some money, obviously. Even if you just buy a car and then sell it back to the dealer, you probably lose 15,000 straight away on a car like this. And then when you go and do mileage, it's a little bit more. But you can sort of calculate the risk of it. You can calculate, you know, an amount and decide, you know, let's say I do 7,000 or 8,000 miles on this car in the next year. That's probably 7,000 or 8,000 miles I didn't do in the McLaren. And obviously that's going to have a much bigger depreciation hit if I did that than this car. So it sort of makes a bit of sense to buy it. This is man maths logic right here. It makes a little bit of sense to buy it, although though not the most in the world. So that's one way to look at it. And, you know, I want to get involved in sort of growing a collection as a sort of investment asset kind of thing, you know, down the line. Get some classic cars, get some cars that aren't necessarily going to lose lots of money like all of the new ones will do. But I think it's a pretty big thing to mention that the 12C and 650S and any other car, if you buy right, you know, I think this is a beautiful spec car, and I thought the price it was at was a great price. So perhaps even this car won't lose any money down the line. I mean, that would be my dream, but I'm not going to rely on it. I buy the cars to enjoy them, own them, and use them. And if they don't cost any money, that's a great thing, but you never know. But going back round in a circle, I guess, a bit, on top of talking about the investment side of it, is how did I get the money in the first place to buy these? Well, I think a lot of people think I'm probably younger than I am. I'm actually nearly 30, which is quite worrying. But I've been working, you know, I started working properly when I was 18, 19, but I'd been trading since I was a teenager, since I was 14, 15 years old. I'd been selling stuff on the internet. I've always been interested in doing business. So I've done lots of different things over the time since. I've had a good job, worked for 4 or 5 years in finance in the city of London. That sort of helped me build up some sort of assets and investments, build a little portfolio. I've done a couple of different startups and small things since. Nothing that's particularly big as a single item that I can talk about. You know, I don't have like a massive company I can go and boast about. That's why I don't talk about it, because I don't have one. But I've done lots of different things. Of course, I guess a lot of people don't think about it, but YouTube is a business. Shmee150 is now a brand. We do a lot of different things. I have a team working for me. The team is listed on the Shmee150 website. Absolutely fantastic to know that other people are able to make something out of this. Ah, the lights! Oh, this is annoying. Right, I'll be right back. And go again. Yeah, so I was saying about the team. It's brilliant for me to know that other people are able to get involved in this. And between my team, we do a lot of different things as well. We get involved in social media stuff, helping out different companies, marketing. Of course, there's always the YouTube side, you know about that. Doesn't take a genius to work all of that stuff out. So it's basically a case of, with what I already had before, the funding I had available through myself and things I've done, combining now with what I'm able to earn and where I'm sort of gambling that cars are going. You know, most people of my age are probably settling down, having families, buying houses. But for me, you know, I spend every waking minute thinking about Shmee150 and the YouTube channel. I work 7 days a week from the minute I wake up till the minute I go to sleep, between that and the various other things I get involved with. I think a lot of people quickly underestimate the work involved. You know, like right now I'm on a road trip, so I'm having fun during the day, but the first thing I do when I get to my hotel is edit the video and upload it, and answer emails and business. You know, I don't get to go to a bar and have a drink with a friend. I'm here working. So I get loads of comments about people just thinking that I never work, and to be honest, that's quite insulting, because I think I work harder than most people I know. But it's an immensely rewarding thing, you know, and especially sharing all these experiences. I love sharing them, and seeing all the positive comments is something I absolutely love. And being able to just share as much of this experience with you guys as I possibly can is a truly rewarding thing. So I appreciate all of the positive stuff. I just wish sometimes there was slightly less of the negative stuff, you know? But whatever, can't really beat it. Haters will always be haters. On which note, yeah, all the stuff to do with being a rich kid. I'm not a kid, come on, I've been working for a decade. Driving for, how long have I been driving now? 11 years. Yeah, just frustrating. And I think a lot of people think that. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I'm obviously from a fairly good background. My parents supported me when I was younger, I went to a good school, and I think that taught me the drive to want to go out and work and do the things that I could do, and try and get somewhere. But the short story is, my cars and my lifestyle are entirely funded by money I make. I've had enough of people suggesting otherwise, really, you know? There's no simple way to put it. It's not like I'm on a salary that I can go and tell you, yes, I'm earning X from whoever, because I'm not. I'm just doing different things. What I am doing is earning the money, spending it how I want to spend it on cars, but every single penny that goes into running these cars comes from me. I promise you that. So we need to stop on these whole comments all over the shop about how this works. It's just that I built up myself enough assets, and I've recently liquidated some of that into cash so I could go out and buy these cars. Of course, I wanted to buy the 675 LT, so I knew I needed a lot of money prepared, ready to buy that. The FF, I'm not going to lie about it, I've done it through Ferrari Finance. Obviously, I've paid a fairly big deposit, and I pay a monthly amount of money, and it's all up to me about setting that up to roughly cover how much it's going to depreciate over that time. And run it. So that's a sort of investment decision, you know, that's a risk perhaps, but that's the move I've chosen to make with money that I made. So it's something I think I'm allowed to do. So in a way I'm frustrated I have to keep answering these questions, but guys, there's no more to it. There's no secret story. I'm not lying about anything. There's nothing I haven't told you. It's just how it is. So let's run through a couple more quick fire questions. Back on topic. Am I going to get a P1 next? Everybody thinks I'm going to buy a P1. Unfortunately for me, a McLaren P1 is £1.5 million. These cars are fairly expensive, but that's more than triple the cost of these two combined, and you couldn't go and use it a lot like I can use these two. So that's not about to happen. Now, if business goes really well and the different things I do in the future, maybe. Who knows? Which car will you take on Gumball? Gumball 3000, I don't actually know that I'm doing next year's Gumball yet. Fingers crossed I am, but we'll see in due course. And then which car, who knows? We'll see. Maybe it won't even be one of these two. I have no idea. What else am I using the FF for? Well, I'd like to take it on a skiing trip in winter. So take it down to the snow, put some Toto Zero winter tyres on it, and do lots of other fun stuff. I'll use it for daily adventures, trips, things I'm doing in England. So there's a lot on the horizon, and it's going to put on some good miles, so I'll be able to report back in due course about how a Ferrari handles doing some good mileage. It started as 3 years old and just shy of 10,000 miles, but there's clearly some space to work with and grow that out a bit more. So I think I'm going to wrap up there pretty much for the questions. That's basically everything I wanted to run through. It's been a pretty exciting week or two, there's no question about that with these two and all of the adventures I've been on. And I'm looking forward to many, many more. But the big question, yeah, about what I do and what I spend my time doing and how I make all of this possible. You know, I think I never thought a couple of years ago I would be able to do this. You know, I've always liked cars. I've always liked buying cars. I remember buying my Aston Martin about 5 years ago, after doing some particularly hard work that year and a couple of things going very well, and that was fantastically exciting. I mean, even buying my Clio when I was young. My first car was a 1.2 litre Renault Clio. I will never forget that. I was so excited. I even know the date I bought it. It's that ridiculous. But I think I just set my mind to working hard, to doing what I loved, to not worrying too much about where I'd end up, and just sort of going out there and enjoying life, because I think the most important thing is enjoying it. I don't think it's necessarily vital that you have to go and earn X and you have to buy X. I think it's more important that you, day to day, wake up happy knowing that you're doing something that you enjoy. And fortunately for me, I enjoy a lot of what I'm doing. I mean, there's a lot of emailing work and things to do behind the scenes. And obviously, I have some stressful things to do at times, but the rewards are fantastic. And I love making all of these YouTube videos as a thing to do as well. So, yeah, you know, bit of motivational stuff. I think anybody out there, you can aim high. If you're a young guy wondering what course you should do in education or what job you should go into, just work hard. You know, if you want to achieve something, you'll get there if you put in the work effort on the way. But for me, I'm loving the last couple of weeks. This car is absolutely fantastic. I hope that's answered a good few of your questions. But I think I'm going to wrap up there. Sorry for quite a long Q&A video. I'm sure I'll be back with another one in a week or two because a lot more stuff will inevitably fly in the comments. And there are one or two things I want to run through in the not too distant future. Staying in tune for a couple of surprises coming up. So just some cool stuff. But yeah, that's it for now. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will catch up with you again very soon. Cheers. Hi Nick, how are you?
Hello, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Hi, nice to see you.
Pretty excited about today. I can see the car over there. Let's go straight inside.